make it happen. Okay, and our next speaker, please welcome Tim Nation. Woo! There you go, Tim. Hopefully, is it working?
All right, thank you. So good to be here tonight. I was thinking how I could inspire you and leave you with some words of wisdom. And I was thinking about that old saying, you have to walk a mile in someone's shoes. You know that saying, right? But there's wisdom in that. When you walk a mile in someone's shoes and they have a problem with you, if they still want to fight, you're at least a mile away from a barefooted person. So, words of wisdom to live by. But I was thinking how I was going to start tonight, and I was thinking about when I was 19 years old, I was riding on the back of a motorcycle with my buddy Randy Earlywine. Earlywine's a great name. I don't know if it means the season the wine's ready or what time you start drinking. But we were going to Bloomington. I was 19 years old, and I had an epiphany. I had an epiphany that I needed to connect with that person I was before I became a goofy teenager. Because you know when you're a teenager, you start caring more about what other people think than what you think. But after a while, you learn that nobody's really thinking about you because they're too worried about what other people think. So when I started thinking about my life and where I'd been, I remembered as a child, I was a graduate of St. Mary's of the Woods, their kindergarten. And I went to preschool and kindergarten there. It was a Montessori type of school. And then the nuns at the Sisters of Providence started a place called St. Anne's. And St. Anne's was a unique type of place because it was the glorious 1970s. Anything was possible in the 70s. Am I right? That's right. And then what happened, that Reagan Revolution took us all the way back to the 1850s, but that's a whole nother story. But at St. Anne's, this was a Montessori project-based type of school where we didn't have grades. We sat at tables and study carols and bean bags. We could study whatever we wanted whenever we wanted to because our teachers didn't lecture. We were responsible for our own education. From first grade on, they'd ask us, how many chapters are you going to get done this 6 weeks in phonics and math? And we'd set goals. And we were judged on how we accomplished our goals and what we were able to accomplish at our school. There was a big emphasis on arts. We had visiting artists. We had a potter who was artist in residence. We had Mummenschanz come through and the Count Basie Orchestra and all these amazing things. And the whole world was open to me. And along with not having grades, we had the ability to get up and go to the bathroom wherever we want. We were responsible for our own education. Our teachers didn't lecture. They usually sat at their own desks and read their own books while we were busy learning. And we would, if we had a question, we would usually ask the smart kid in math about that question before we'd even ask the teacher. And that experiment worked because when we took the Iowa basic tests, most of the people in my school were at least 2 or 3 grade levels above where they were supposed to be. But just like everything, good things come to end, and my school was closed. And between 7th and 8th grade, and I went on to public schools, and I saw how most people had their education. And I realized that this whole factory model is one that can help give people grade and push people through, but it doesn't really give you ownership over your own education. It doesn't give you what you need to see that every one of us is a lifelong learner, and we never stop learning. So I took those lessons, and I moved after college. I moved to the big city of Indianapolis. When I moved to Indianapolis, I moved in the late 80s to 24th and Delaware. Beautiful neighborhood now, but back then it was called Dodge City. There were, unfortunately, there were a lot of drive-through drug dealers and and helicopters going. It was like one of those Tupac movies, but it was right here in our town, back in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was living with six other guys, and so the neighbors thought we were gay cops. But in that, we also got to start knowing some of the kids in the neighborhood. And we got to see that these kids were just like me growing up, but they had so many different challenges that I couldn't even imagine. And I really got a passion for helping kids. I was involved in politics and government, and I worked my way up to be the AmeriCorps director for the state, the AmeriCorps program, getting things done for America to make our people safer, smarter, and healthier. So I was a state director, and in that work, I got to have a chance to get conflict resolution training for AmeriCorps members. And I started seeing that this conflict resolution and social emotional learning type of work, this is the missing link in our culture. Unfortunately, we lose 20,000 Americans every year to homicide. And even worse is 30,000 people commit suicide in our country every year. There's a crisis going on, and we need to do something about it. So I got a real passion to try to help kids learn these conflict resolution skills. And in the winter of 1997, my friend Charlie Wiles and I were cross-country skiing out at Eagle Creek Park and came across this beautiful mansion in the woods and right by the water. Years ago, it was an Indian museum. It was an old J.K. Lilly house, and beautiful house, but it was obviously abandoned. And we thought to ourselves, wow, we could renovate this building and we could bring kids out here to the park, teach them this conflict resolution, peace education, teach them about compassion. And even if they just got to walk in the woods, we'd be doing good work. So we started working in the Indianapolis public schools, bringing kids out to Eagle Creek Park in 1997 and set a goal to serve every fourth grader. And we got the idea in January 97. By March, we had the building. We started renovating it, put in a new roof, and then by October, we had our first bus of fourth graders. And from that October to that next May, we had 3,200 students go through our program. And it grew. It grew to all the sixth graders in the district going to a 3-day, 2-night camp. And then we started doing programs in schools. And we started to learn that the younger that we go, the more effective it is. So now we're working with preschool and kindergarten and first graders, and they're the best students. You go in one week, you come back next week, and they said, I tried that iMessage. It really works. I like talking about my feelings. We need to start early. They're the best students. But we also work in high schools, and we've grown this Peace Learning Center, and now we've been around. We're about ready to celebrate our 20-year anniversary next year, and we've served over 200,000 people. We have programs in 8 cities around the country and 5 countries around the world that have adopted our curriculum from right here in Indianapolis, and we're really proud of that. So the woods and the water are beautiful out in Eagle Creek, and I think all of you need to be out there. It's the 4th largest city park in the country. It's a beautiful place. And to share it with children all year around is the best feeling. In fact, today, I had a guy who was in 99 and 2000, had come to us. He had juvenile detention problems. And so he was helping us and getting his hours in and that kind of stuff. And he didn't know we still existed. He brought a big bag of cash and gave us $400 and said we changed his life, because he puts all of his $1, anytime he has change, he puts it in a sack and he gives it to organization once a year. And so when those kinds of things happen, it's amazing. So I want to help teach you a few things that we like to teach. And the first thing is a peace breath. And you know, it's funny, we all breathe every day, but the funny thing is that we don't breathe like a baby. If you look at a baby breathes out its belly. The belly goes up and down, up and down. But you know, as we get older, we start breathing further and further up in our chest, and we get these little, you get stressed and your shoulders go up. But I want you to do a peace breath with me. Get it all the way down the belly. I'm going to count to 5. Ready? 1, 2, breathe in. 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, don't you feel better? I'm telling you, I've had kids say, "Thank you for teaching me how to breathe." I said, "I thought you already knew how because you're alive." Anyway, I want to talk about the responses to conflict and stress. We know the 3 F's, right? The 3 F's: fight, flight, freeze. But do you know there's a 4th F? When faced with conflict, you can also try to get friendship. And that's a choice. It really is. It's a choice. Friendship is a choice. And so think about the 4 F's next time you're stressed out. And how can you make friendship? The only thing controlled by you is what you say and what you do. Nobody makes you feel or do or say anything. Now, I know there's sometimes that maybe in a violent situation or something, you're out of control. But so many people want to blame other people for the situations that they're in. But we have to learn how to stop trying to cash in on the entitlements of victimhood. Because everyone in here has been a victim of something in their life. And you could have given up. You could have said that you don't want to go forward anymore. And a lot of people do. But what made you take that problem and turn it into an opportunity, or transcend that problem to the next step? So it's so important too to attack the problem, not the person. A lot of times we want to get personal about conflicts and problems, but we need to realize that the problem is what is what we need to focus on, not the other person's behavior or how we're going to change the other person. So when we talk about conflict, we say when faced with conflict, ask questions, because we all know what assumptions get us. And the thing about assumptions is that a lot of time we assume the worst about the other person, or we assume the worst about ourselves. But if we learn how to ask questions like, what happened? Why does it matter? How did it make you feel? Talking about feelings are so important. And you know the other thing about feelings is that we need to affirm other people's feelings instead of negate them. When somebody says they're mad or angry or sad about something, a lot of times the first thing we want to do is say, well, you shouldn't be mad because what's wrong with saying, I understand you're angry about this situation. You have a right to be angry. And you know the thing about emotions too, that's a person's truth. It's their truth. So we don't need to negate their truth. And so we also need to know what we need to solve problems. So we all need to realize we need to be the peacemaker that we're waiting for. Because it only takes one person to start peace. A lot of times people are waiting for that other person to make the first move. But we have to learn that it's up to us. It comes down to 10 two-letter words. 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Let's hear it for Tim. If you guys haven't been to the Peace Learning Center, please go, because it's a fantastic place that Tim started it. So